Okay, so we're just going to take a quick look at chapter 18 and the marriage proposal from Gilbert's perspective. So marriage, as I was just saying earlier, in relation to Hortense's proposal, marriage is a key element of comedy, as you're all aware, and here it's presented as far from that romantic ideal which is often proposed in comedies. Marriage is the ultimate goal, and here it's far from it. It's a compromise. It's a business deal. This is a very, very realistic view of marriage here. And why is that? Why is it that Levy's presentation of marriage is so different to the other comedic texts that you might have studied? Well, that's obviously because primarily this is a historical novel with just comedic elements, and Levy is much more interested in authenticity, presenting a realistic view of life in 1940s. So to start off with, we see the difference between Elwood and Gilbert. They're two very different Jamaican men. Elwood, to a certain degree, is presented as a clown-like figure. You remember the bees and the honey episode, which is very funny. Elwood is very patriotic. He's very positive. He says, "You're born a Jamaican, you die a Jamaican. Why you want to leave?" Yeah, so he's absolutely committed to staying in Jamaica and trying to make it work. And his ultimate goal is self-rule. But Gilbert is tired of fighting, and he's very different. Elwood says he's different because he says, "You may look like one of us, but nothing going to change the fact that your daddy is a white man." Remember that his dad's a Jew turned Christian. And so, Gilbert's very different, and Levy is trying to show us a kind of, all the different kinds of Jamaican men that were there, not just Gilbert. So there's two very contrasting figures there, and Gilbert is ambitious. He's desperate for a better life, and I think don't we find that admirable? So in this extract, Levy allows us to see why Gilbert accepted Hortense's proposal, and we learn that he doesn't really believe the stories that he told Celia and Hortense when they were courting about diamonds appearing on the ground when it rained in England, and etc., etc. So after we've heard Hortense's side, where she sort of sees Gilbert as really a bit of an idiot, we begin to understand, Levy allows us to understand that Gilbert was very conscious that what he was doing was fibbing. He talks about truths, those lies, those half-baked dreams. But this was a man desperate for a better life. And so we're beginning to see Gilbert through very different perspective. He's becoming less of a foolish figure, chapter by chapter, at this stage. And so we see how, he was really enjoying Celia's company. She puffed him proud like a prince. She just was enthralled by his stories, and that made him feel great. But Hortense makes him feel like a dwarf. So Hortense is not impressed by him at all. And we can see there's a glimmer of attraction there. Oh, she was pretty, and then he talks about her golden skin and her eyes and so on. So we can see that there's a glimmer of attraction there. And he's kind of simultaneously repulsed by her as well. Just as she considers him an idiot, he mocks her ruthlessly. Look at those descriptions here. Her lips could have been soft and charming, if not always pinched tight and vexation, or lifted haughty about the corners to show her disdain. He talks about how her eyebrows would rise so high on her forehead they looked to be blown there by the wind. Even her ears could cuss you. So there were some wonderfully witty descriptions of her, and of course he's a great orator. He's a fabulous storyteller, Gilbert, very entertaining, and revealing him as a man of wit and intelligence. So there's this mutual antipathy between them, which is really quite amusing to us. But in this marriage, there is no romance, no declarations of love, no fancy words here. So completely contrasting with the usual conventions of comedy. It's very much like a business deal. Sorry, I should have moved that up. So no fancy words, no declarations of love. It's completely like a business deal. My honour would see the debt was paid. Hear this, I even thought to slip my finger to seal the deal in blood. But she had not finished with me yet. So he really feels he has absolutely no choice. She's the dominant one, and he is the submissive, the inferior one. Almost like the sort of childlike figure, really. And that in itself is potentially comic as well, isn't it? Those sort of that subversion of gender norms there. Wonderfully witty descriptions revealing his wit and intellect. No romance, no declarations of love. It's almost a kind of a relationship, going back to biology, CSE biology, symbiosis, a kind of a relationship of almost mutual exploitation. Where's this quote where he says, she would be, here we are. Here, this woman was looking for escape, and I was to be the back that she would ride out on. So he feels exploited, doesn't he? And kind of dwarfed and belittled by that. So this is a kind of a moving, poignant admission from Gilbert that he wept. I sobbed like a boy lost. I was beaten. And it's an element of tragedy there in his submission to Hortense, and of course the fact that he is kind of willing to go along with this marriage without any romance. And then the humour kind of acts as a bit of comic relief in that potentially tragic moment. But this is the start of Gilbert's journey. He's learned that he wants more. He's learned that about himself. Of course, the wider meaning, really, we have to interpret is the lack of opportunity for Jamaicans around this particular time. But let's just have a look at the way that Jamaica is described. I was a giant living on a land no bigger than the soles of my shoes. The palm trees that tourists thought rested so beautiful on every shore were my prison bars. And so there's lots of imagery there about kind of suffocation or, imprisonment. It's too small for him. That relates to the title, Small Island. And then over here we've got this image of a kind of a barren land. He puts his fingers into the ground, which was parched and dry, too hard for me to push my fingers down into the earth. It's almost as if for him he felt like a plant. There wasn't enough for him to grow in the Jamaican soil. He needed a fertile land for him. So it's quite a poignant description, and we can really see why Gilbert was cornered into accepting Hortense's proposal.